Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, When the Pendulum Swings Back, Will You Be Prepared by Quicksell. Today you are listening using your computer speaker system by default. You will have the opportunity to submit questions to Cliff by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar is proudly sponsored by Entity Brands, home to 13 of the world's largest uniform brands, including Nike and Port Authority. The power of the brands is in your hands at entitybrands.com.au. To give a brief introduction on today's webinar, Cliff Quicksell Jr. Mass Plus has been involved in the promotional products and sportswear industry for nearly 40 years. During this tenure, he has achieved the Mass Plus professional designation, Master Advertising Specialist Plus. He has been actively involved in PPAI, the International Trade Association for the Promotional Products Industry, serving on various committees, as a facilitator at all PPAI and ASI shows, and as a member of PPAI's Ambassador Speakers Bureau for over 15 years. Cliff's passion for education and training is exemplified by having served 5 terms at the Education Chairperson for the Regional Trade Association, CPPA, of Maryland, and currently serves on the board as its Vice President. I will now hand this over to Cliff.
Ida, thank you very much. And folks, thank you very much for taking the time today to come to this webinar. My hope is when you walk away that you are empowered at some level. Hopefully there's a few nuggets that you take away that will be inspiring and hopefully will help you in growing your business. I'd like to first start off by saying to everyone, I am not Nostradamus. I do not have a magic ball, magic 8-ball, or where I can predict the future. But there is one thing about me and the people that know me, and I know several people in Australia. And one thing is that I'm an optimist. I am the eternal optimist, if you will. And one of the folks that I love following is, by the way, his name is Simon Sinek. And if you've never heard him speak, I encourage you to do it. But I saw this quote that really exemplifies the way I think. And I really think that it's put me on a really good path. And hopefully, you can think about this as well. And Simon says that optimism is different from positivity. And optimism is not naive either. Optimism accepts the truth of reality and looks forward to a brighter future. Optimism is the foundation of hope, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we will get there together. I believe that. I believe that this is a massive hiccup. No one in the world is exempt from this issue that we're dealing with there now. But I feel that I have a choice. I have a choice to either be forward-thinking and optimistic, or I can drown in my own sorrow. But I do have that choice. And to me, there's no other option. Now, people say to me, a lot of times, how do you stay so optimistic? I said, the reality is I don't have a choice. There's a lot of people that depend on me. And I'll explain this to you. My son years ago, he said, Dad, when you think about yourself and in business and the way you do things and the way you grow, etc., he goes, what is your way of thinking? I said, well, my way of thinking is pretty simple. I said, and before you shoot me, hear what I have to say. I said, Alex, I come first. And you and your sister and Maria come second. And the rest of my family, then my friends, and then the company, my clients that I work with, they come last. And I said, I have to have that kind of balance because I must be whole spiritually, mentally, physically, and fiscally, because everyone below me depends on me. So I have no choice but to be optimistic and forthright. Imagine, if you would, the president of any country getting on and saying, we're all doomed. it's all over. That would create panic. You take any president of any organization that would get on the television and say the same thing, it would create pandemonium. So the question is, we do have this choice to be upbeat and positive and optimistic about what's going to happen, and it will change. That's the beauty of this. It's going to change. And if you think about everything that's happened in the course of, I mean, look at the devastation that took place in Australia just several months ago with those fires. It was horrible. Nobody expected anything like that. Nobody expected 9/11. Nobody expected the Ebola virus and SARS. Nobody expected that. But it's cyclic. It happens. And the thing is, that's when the pendulum swung the other way. And now it's about to swing back. And the question is, are you prepared for that swinging back when it rights itself again? Instead of wallowing in what we're experiencing right now, keeping our head down and looking forward and staying positive really makes a difference. So the takeaways we're going to have today is, what do we know now? The reality is it's fluid. Tomorrow it could be different. Actually, it will be different. I've done this presentation now 5 or 6 times in the last 15, 16 days. And every single time I've done it, I've had to go back in and rework it because things have changed. It's so fluid. But we're going to talk today about communicating with our clients. This will vary between distributor, salesperson, the client type, the markets. How you engage with your clients and whatnot will change and vary greatly. The big question I ask people, and I do a lot of consulting, and I've asked, actually I had the conversation with Robert Williams, your president, and I said, it's really interesting to have the discussion about what will business look like after the pendulum swings back? And the real question is not only our business, but what about the businesses that you currently work with? We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that as we move forward. But think about that for a minute. And these are great discussions. The other thing is, if being forward thinking, we might want to look at what type of businesses may emerge from this pandemic. What are the opportunities that are going to arise potentially after this is all said and done? The reality is, what you can't do is do nothing. You have to do something. And if you put your best foot forward with this, I think that you're going to see remarkable, remarkable results. Now, the whole premise of this presentation today, I had to think about it, and I love telling relevant stories that I think relate, but this one is a relatable story about being present. And I think that is the key message to this presentation today, is how do we remain present with our customers? How do we stay engaged with our customers so that we don't fall off the radar? Now, I'll tell you a little story. This photo right here, the young lady in the red and white, is my daughter, Kate. When she was in high school and college, she played lacrosse. For those of you who may or may not know much about lacrosse, in the States, kids start out playing lacrosse when they're 3 and 4 years old. My son and my daughter both started when they were freshmen in high school, which is unheard of. They're both really good athletes, very dependable. They show up to practice and do the things that they have to do. But yet, a lot of the gals on Kate's team played for many, many years together before Kate even started the sport. So I remember Katie was sitting there after the 3rd game in her freshman year. And she came up to me and she said, in her 12-year-old attitude, she goes, "Dad, I'm going to quit the team." I said, "Why would you do that?" She goes, "Because the coach doesn't play me." I said, "Kate, do you know why the coach doesn't play you?" She goes, "No, Dad, why is that?" I said, "Because you're not engaged. You're not involved." I said, "You sit on the bench. You're moping, you're crying, you're chit-chatting with your girlfriends, complaining about why you're not playing in the game. Why aren't you up cheering your team on?" She goes, I don't understand what you're talking about. I said, do me a favor. The next game, I want you to stand 2 steps behind your coach and 1 step to the right. When he moves, you move. Backward and forward. And you're cheering the whole time for the gals that are on your team. And then you're getting the people up off the bench to do the same thing. You're going to be present with the coach. And I promise you, when he turns around and needs somebody to go in, he's going to remember that you were standing there. He's going to remember your voice. He's going to see you. He's going to stumble over you a couple times. But you need to be present. You need to be in his face. You need to be engaged. And without that, you're going to ride the bench. I promise you. The next game, she did that exact same thing, thank goodness. And 5 minutes before the game was over, the coach turned because one of the girls had made a mistake and put my daughter in. Kate started playing from that game on as a starter all through the rest of her high school career and through college because she carried that same momentum over. So as I told her, Kate, and this is what I'm going to share with you too, as you're dealing with your customers, even when things are not the best, even when you're not getting orders, even when things are not going right, you must be present. You must be seen. You must be engaged with your customers at some level, because when you are, then you become part of the solution. I'm going to share with you a couple of really relevant case histories that just happened today that were very, very positive. And I think that you'll see what I'm talking about. But the reality is, if you're present and you're seen and you're engaged, you become part of the solution. And my friends, ultimately, you are going to win. Now, the key is, and you're going to hear me say this potentially a couple of times during this webinar, is that when you start to get this momentum going, when things become flush, when you start getting that business back and things are going right, you cannot let the foot off the gas. You have to keep pushing, because by doing that, you keep that momentum alive, because you never know when something else is going to happen. And if you don't have that momentum going into that, things can stall. And that is what I have seen dealing with people in Canada, talking to some folks that I'm working with in Australia and all through Europe and the US. The people that let their foot off the gas sometimes are the ones that really, really struggle. That's not all the time, but in many cases. So again, make sure that you're present. So what are the things that we know now? There's a lot of challenges. I think oftentimes, and look, I come to you with this experience because I'm the vice president of affiliate marketing for one of the companies that's the top, like the top 10, one of the top 10 distributor companies in the US. And I'm responsible for 700 companies under our umbrella in their sales marketing growth. And I see it and I deal with these folks all day long. They're great people, but everybody's in panic mode now. Everybody's chasing, what should I sell somebody? But the reality is, folks, you know, sales are down. You can't change that. You can only change what you can change. Some people are not getting inquiries. The people that are sitting on the side of the bench are not getting inquiries. The people that are pushing this, that, and the other and setting the stage for down the road, they're getting some inquiries, but they're being recognized, they're being noticed, they're engaged. The question is, you know, when is this all going to start up again? I was just telling Ida earlier that I was listening to, excuse me, a presentation on television today by Donald Trump, who he says he's restarting our economy on May 1. Will that happen? Who knows? What is it going to look like? No one knows. But my point is, we all know that eventually it's going to. What items do we sell when it takes over? When it all starts to kick back in, what is it going to look like? Are we going to start from scratch? Or are we going to be rolling and engaged so when this thing comes, and what I predict, and again, I'm not a fortune teller, but what I predict is that people want to get back to work. Companies want to get their businesses off the ground. And what better medium is there out there than what we sell? What better medium is there out there than what we sell? And if you're prepared, you can't be starting from scratch. You have to be in the game when this thing takes off, because I believe it's going to explode. I believe that our industry is going to take off like no one's business, but we have to be smart. We do know that everybody's affected. So it's not like one sector. It's not one country. It's not one territory. The reality is everybody's affected. But what's interesting is, don't we see a really unique quality that starts to develop in people? Once again, I'm very optimistic. I see people that are pulling together, doing things differently. And what this has done, it's forced us to be innovative and creative. You see it all the time. You see all this stuff that's popping up that's unique and different that no one's done before. And why? It's because we're forced into that. I encourage you that as we transition out of this and that pendulum swings back, don't lose that momentum. Keep that momentum rolling for innovation and creativity and doing things over and above what all the competitors are doing. Do things different. Be that one of those 3%ers in the industry that people just gravitate to, because you are constantly thinking outside the box, constantly doing things differently, constantly setting the bar higher for yourself and your company. The bottom line is, folks, there's a few things that we need to do now. I'm a big fan of, I think that at some level, this has been kind of a reset button. And we have this, like I said, it's very cyclical. And I believe it's about getting back to basics. I want to share another story with you about getting back to basics. And a few years back, probably 20 plus years ago, I was training for the Olympics in Taekwondo. And I made the Maryland State team that went to the US qualifying team games for the Olympics. And my martial arts instructor at the time, he was like my dad. I loved him to death, Grandmaster Cha. And after one of our black belt classes, he came up to me and he says, I'd like you to stay because I want you to practice a few things. And I said, okay. And everybody leaves the dojang, and he comes up to me and says, I want you to do front kick, then back kick, side kick, round kick. And I did, and he goes, very good. He goes, now do 1,000 more times with each leg, and then you can go. And he was serious. He stood in his office behind that two-way glass, and I could see his silhouette, and he just watched me. And for 2 hours, I did these kicks. And folks, I'm telling you, by the time I was done, I could barely lift my legs. Now, I've been training with this gentleman for over 16, 18 years at the time. And I remember going into the locker room, and he came in and he says, I think you're mad at me. I said, no, sir, I'm not mad. I just very confused. You've seen me do that 1,000 times. Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm not mad. I just don't understand. He says, let me ask you a question. When you first learned how to write a story, did you know how to write the story right away? I said, what do you mean? He goes, didn't you have to learn how to write the letters, and then how to put the letters together to make words, and then sentences and phrases and paragraphs, and then you built the story? I said, yes, sir. He goes, but then again, every time you went back to write a story, once you learned the basics, you always practice the basics. And this is one of those wax on, wax off type moments, I think. And I went, okay. He goes, Cliff, never forget the basics. If you remember the basics, you have everything. And boy, I tell you, that resonated with me to this day. And that was many, many years ago. And I just remember him saying that. And I thought to myself, with this situation that we're dealing with now, isn't it a great opportunity for us to get back to some basics, like just getting our house in order, cleaning up the samples, going into our sample room, I call it the sample closet, and looking at all the products that we have in there that we had intended to use with the best intentions, but they're just sitting there. That's gold on the shelf and opportunities for you down the road. What about the catalogs and files and just the general malaise that's in your office that you could just clean up? What about that? What about getting all of that in order so that when this, now I know some of you are probably saying, boy, this is pretty basic. Yep. But the question is, are you doing it? And I know that I'm pretty dedicated to keeping myself in order. I mean, I have 700 companies I'm responsible for. I do all my own bookings. I have all my own speeches. I do all my own research, and I have to. But you know what? When this thing happened, I looked around and said, I have a lot that I can get cleaned up and straightened up here. And I've done it. The other thing is about managing your database. Have you gone in and have you looked at your customers? Now, this is a whole different webinar that we're going to talk about right now. We won't get into it too deep, but I'm a big fan of breaking your customers down by vertical markets and classifying them, segmenting them by vertical markets. So banking and finance, aerospace, hospitality, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll get into the leveraging of your supplier base and how you can leverage that talent to help you get everything, all the stuff that's in your closet potentially, get all of that ready to go. Where is that going to be launched to? How am I going to creatively package that and push it out? What is the messaging going to be behind that? Which vertical market is going to be strongest to receive that? Which vendors can I lean on right now that are working? Maybe still doing virtual samples, maybe doing physical samples right now that I can get in line and have everything ready to go for those vertical markets. Are you prepared? The other thing I talk about is classifying the customers. A through F customers, my A, B, C, D, E, F customers. F customers, when I look at my client base, those are the people that I wouldn't want to talk to even if they picked up the phone, even if they called me. Are you cleaning up your house? Are you looking at your client base and saying, this is the core group people that I want to focus on? This is the type of people that I want to prospect to. If you're looking at it in that fashion, folks, I'm telling you, you're going to really have your ducks in a row so that when this thing takes off again, you're going to be primed and ready to go. This is a prime time for you to revise your marketing plan, to get your strategy in place, and to ask yourself, how is my business going to be different? Are you asking questions of your customers now? Are you talking to them? And we'll talk about communication here in a minute. Are you talking to them about how do they want to be communicated with in the future? Are you prepared for this ramp up? And it's really, truly important for you to keep this in mind, that it's important for you to stay relevant in contact with your clients. And now, believe it or not, is an excellent time to start prospecting. Prospecting in those vertical markets where you can see some huge potential. And I'm going to show you, share a few things with you that'll maybe get you to see what I'm talking about in a few minutes here. The last thing I would ask you to do is what we talked, what could surface next? What kind of markets could potentially surface due to this pandemic? What's changed in the industry? And keep in mind that truly you can only control what you can control. You can't force it on people. You can't, force people to buy. But what you can do is you can stay engaged and you can stay present with your customers and prospects. So let's talk about communication right now. I believe that we're going to have to start getting comfortable with the new and emergent technologies. How are the dynamics of your meetings going to change? Do you know if your clients are cool with doing Zoom or doing a GoToMeeting or FaceTime, or are they involved with Teams? Some people don't like that face-to-face video type chat on the phone, but how would you know? So it's important for when you do talk to your customers. I believe that like I mentioned to you, I have some people that I work with, when they call me, I can sense the panic in their voice. And the panic is very unsettling. So I encourage people, when you're talking with folks and your clients, stay calm, stay positive, be resolved, and be proactive. And I'm going to show you something, as I mentioned a little bit. Let them know that you're there and you're going to be there for them. Now may not be the time for them to buy, but guess what? I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. And I'm sure that All of you on this call have done that, but don't stop. Don't stop, because when this pendulum swings back, people are going to remember what you've done. The other thing too, I think it's going to be important as we start to communicate more, is to really ask about frequency. What do you like to do? Would you like to be, connected to me by phone, email? Are you amenable to FaceTime or Facebook Live? The other day, I did a Facebook Live event with one of our affiliates. It was absolutely amazing. We had a supplier partner that we brought in, one of my affiliates, and then they asked me to attend. And we had a brief town hall meeting. It was fabulous. Something that was recorded that could be then used and repurposed in social media, etc. It was fantastic. And there was a lot of business that came out of that for that particular supplier. So I would encourage you to think about the different ways that you can use technology, engage with your customer, perhaps, and we'll talk a little bit about this too, but how do you keep your brand alive? Maybe right now would be a great time for you to do a small Zoom meeting with 5 or 6 of your customers, maybe in the same vertical market, maybe in different vertical markets. So you could just talk and you could be the conduit or the catalyst for bringing people together. So it's important that you do this. We basically have I just put together a survey that we are sending out to our customers, our affiliates are sending out to their customers, to basically ask them these questions. What type of technology are you comfortable with? Are you amenable to using a digital platform? What would the frequency look like to you when we look at corresponding with you, etc.? If we can engage with somebody at the level that they want, folks, I got to tell you what, I believe it's a home run. So I told you about strength in partnerships. I wanted to show you that, in the US, we have a platform with PPAI, the Sage platform, and it's fantastic. And one of the things that I like, and I'm sure that you must have the same capabilities there in Australia, but Sage, for instance, has the ability to do free digital catalogs. So you can build your own digital catalogs. What I do, in fact, is I build an immense library of these digital catalogs that are more like advertorial type catalogs that have more substance in it than just product and product pricing. But it's laced with a lot of different checklists and articles and case histories and things like that. And we do this so that we can push this out to keep our folks' brand alive in the eyes of our customers. So as you can see, we do these for healthcare, for golf tournaments, a tech catalog. We do one strictly on creative marketing. And these type of things, it's just to continue to keep the client and prospects' taste wet for what we are bringing to the table every single opportunity that we can. So there's some other methods of engagement that I wanted to talk about as well today. One of them is, we create a lot of different things, like this one you see, you must be present to win poster. So we'll create something like this, and in the bottom right-hand corner, the affiliate can actually put their brand and their logo on it. They just send it out as a touch point with just some annotation. We're here, we're gonna win this together, etc. It's just this level of encouragement to stay in front of people. We've actually taken ads and cropped out the vendor's information, and in the upper right-hand corner you can say innovative promotional concepts. We just dropped the brand in there, and we use this for another email marketing. We want to understand too, what are the things that are keeping your clients awake at night? Well, I've got people that are home. Imagine the people that are working at home now that have been working in an office for 20 years and never experienced that. Most of us that are on this call right now, we love working from home for the most part. I mean, I know I do, but for us, it's easy. Some of these people are having a difficult time. They have kids underfoot. They don't know what to do. They're struggling. So maybe, doing a little coloring tote like this or something like that, that you can suggest it to your customer for things that you can do at home. That we could actually do the drop shipping and send it to your folks home for them, just as another teaser. I saw in your latest newsletter that you did this great a Zoom meeting right here with CEO Wesley Fawaz and a few of the other folks there. And this is another great way to connect and engage with your customers and have a brief town hall meeting. Ask people what they're thinking. It doesn't always have to be salesy. One of the things that I've been doing now every Friday with a lot of my friends, with a lot of the affiliates, is we've been doing a brainstorming happy hour. And the last one we did was, how will markets and businesses be reshaped? And we spend an hour, we bring about 15 people on a Friday evening, and we just get your favorite beverage, sit down, and we just talk. And I will tell you that the level of connection that we get from these meetings is amazing. The brainstorming that comes out of it, the ideas and concepts that come out of it. And it's a very safe and neutral environment. But again, you could do this with a peer group that you may have developed within your organization. APPA may decide to do something like this on their own. You may want to do this with your customers. It could be any number of ways that you could do it. But remember, because we're being forced now to think different and innovatively, these things, as they start to evolve, don't let these things go. If you try them and they work, they're going to work for you after the pendulum swings back as well. I love this. A lot of suppliers are offering special kits. This is one of the kits that one of our suppliers here in the States is offering. It's like a food kit. And I'm sure that you have the same thing there in Australia. But this one is a kit that you could actually brand and send to your a potential customer, like a hospital, or do a charitable good deed or something like that. I love the tagline on this too. This is like a recharge kit that they created, that not all superheroes wear capes. And if you think about this, not just doing this, but how could you parlay this into something down the road? How could you rebrand? You do something like this, but then after the pendulum starts to swing back, what do you do to follow up with that? To send another piece, something else to them, to make the email connection, or whatever the case may be, to carry that message forward. A lot of these people that work in these environments may not be necessarily the buyers, but what I have found is that they know a lot of people. And you could certainly potentially get referrals from people at that level. Pardon me. One of my affiliates, we have this program that we use called, we call it Weve Got You Covered. And it's basically an umbrella that comes in a box that looks like it has water droplets on it. But what I talked to this one affiliate, Linda Cedar, that I work with regularly. We decided to use this particular campaign that we normally send out in a certain way. But what we're doing is we're just dropping this little teaser card on the inside that basically says, sunnier days are ahead. In the meantime, we've got you covered. And basically, this is just a piece to connect with the audience, to let them know that we're still there. You know, we're here. We continue to be open for business. As always, we're here and ready to help you when you are, and we're here to help you weather the storm. Whatever the jargon you want to use on something creative like this, is she going to get orders from this? Probably not. Are people going to remember her? You bet you they're going to remember her. And she does an amazing job. Now, I will tell you, this young lady, as an example, really works hard at staying connected with her customers. In less than 2.5 years, she tripled her business, and her gross margins are over 43%. And she is amazing at what she does, but she is diligent about making sure she stays connected with folks every single opportunity that she has. She struggles just like the rest of us. You know, what do I do? I need some sales, but I know it's not coming. What do I do? So we put together this piece right here, and I tell you what, so far it's been a home run. Recently, we put together this marketing piece, and I have a guy, and I did ask him permission. So I'm sure my heart goes out to this guy, because, you know, sometimes I sit there and I think about how hard I have it sometimes, and then I think about how hard some of these other folks have it. This buddy of mine that I work with, his name is John. He's going through his second bout of stage 4 cancer. But you know what? He never misses a meeting with me, and he's always marketing. And he called me up today and he said, Cliff, I got this amazing, I sent this marketing piece. This is just a sample of it, but I sent this marketing piece that you suggested. He goes, and I just want to thank you. He says, man, it was a home run. He says, I get this email from the client, and she sends me these pictures. So she goes to pick it up at the post office, and then she builds the puzzle and puts it together. But this was the cool thing. If you bear with me, just listen to what she wrote in this email. She says, Dear John and Cheryl, thank you so much for the incredibly thoughtful, personalized gift. I read something recently that said, and listen to this, how companies treat their employees and customers during a time like this says a lot about who they are. Through the good times and the bad of all this corporate attire and more, you two took it upon yourselves to lift the spirits of your customers and inspire us to be loyal, committed, open, trustworthy, and clear. Thank you for thinking of me, thinking of our company, and thinking of all your customers at a time when I'm sure it's easier for you to think of yourselves. Thinking of you both, and thank you. I just thought that was very inspiring. When he got that, he sent it to me. He goes, man, I couldn't have asked for anything better with this letter. He goes, and Cliff, here's the crazy thing. 2 hours later, she called me and asked me to quote on 5 major projects. He goes, she told me we probably won't buy them for about a month or so, but I want you to get started on it. So again, staying connected with people and just doing something kind like this, something simple, just to let them know that you care, really goes a long way. So again, how do we stay engaged? What methods do we use to do that? And how do we creatively set ourselves above the crowd? I can promise you this, there's not another promotional products person that had sent her something like this ever. And this is the thing that she is going to remember long after this pandemic leaves. So just keep that in mind. So what will business look like? What new markets will emerge? I think about this all the time. You know, how, for those of you who sell into the hospitality space, how potentially could that be different? I wish we had a live audience here so that we were face to face and we could talk about this, but it would be really great for you to sit down, and maybe that's something that you should do. Just sit and think about, brainstorm. What would hospitality look like? How will it be different? You know, a friend of mine and I were talking, and he said, Cliff, you know, I really don't want to keep talking about this. This is pretty negative. I go, why is it negative? You're talking about things that could change. Change is difficult for people, but my God, change leads to amazing opportunities. So how will hospitality look differently? Will here, Uber Eats is taken off. Is that going to become the new norm? What about diabetes? Is that going to go down because people aren't going out and dining as often? Will portions be smaller at restaurants than they are now? How will that affect the dynamics of everything that we do? Who knows? I saw a specialist on TV that deals in the hospitality industry. He goes, the big thing when this pendulum swings back, the big thing in the hospitality industry, the major word is going to be trust. How do you build a campaign to help hospitality customers? How do we keep our ear to the ground, hearing things like that? And how do we become proactive to develop a potential campaign that could help all of the hospitality accounts, you know, develop something about trust and how to build that trust? I don't know what that is. I'm just saying, are we thinking like that? Or are we going to go back to the same old thing about handing out a catalog and, you know, what kind of products are you looking for XYZ event? We need to be more forward thinking than that. How is it going to, health and wellness is going to change in this industry? Think about everything that has happened on the front lines with medical. Will medical device companies be springing up right and left now because of this pandemic? Will they need marketing? Will you be there on the front lines? Will you be proactive enough to think a little bit ahead to say, that may be an emerging market, that may be something I want to tap into. How do you go about jumping on that bandwagon? And just another one, what about education? Now everything's being done at home. I know I used to work for an organization where the person that I worked for did not like people working from home. They said, absolutely, positively, you have to be in the office. But yet, at I Promote You, our entire staff went home, entire staff. We have over 100 people. We haven't missed one beat by being at home. So will people start to rethink, well, why can't I just have my folks work remotely? And if that's the case, what type of opportunities do you have to help a client keep themselves connected and keep all of their employees engaged? And if that happens, what would happen to property management? Will that go away? What's going to change there? So this is some of the things that I encourage you to look at about what new businesses may just emerge from something like this. Again, I always look at it very optimistically. Hospitality is going to be around. People have to eat. We're going to need health and wellness. We're definitely going to have education. But will it change dramatically? Or will there be spin-offs from these that will create opportunities for you as you move forward? Something to think about for sure. One of the other things in this downtime, excuse me, for those of you who have not done it, I would encourage you to start looking to get your education, your certification through the PPAI. I know when speaking to Robert Williams, I speak to him quite a bit, and it's pretty interesting. He had gotten his MAS, and I was really tickled and proud of him for doing that. But folks, this is a differentiator in your market space. To be a top professional, a certified professional in your space. PPAI now is offering this for free. You can, up till June 30th, you can take the courses for them for free and get your certification. For those of you who already currently have points and you want to move forward with it, guess what? You can go to that link that you see right there, and you can fast track for your TAS, which is the first the first credentials that you get. And then immediately once you pass that, sign up for your CAS, pass that, and then go right to your MAS and just work on this. Professional development, in my opinion, is a major differentiator. It was for me in my career. And you know what? For people where it matters, it matters. I guess for people that it doesn't matter, it doesn't. But for me, I would encourage you, while you have some downtime, do something. Remember, we talked about it early on about you come first. Now, that doesn't mean that, that everything revolves around you. But guess what? Everything, when I look at something like that, I say, I have to be at the top of my game because the people below me, they depend on me. And doing things for myself, personal enrichment, professional development, understanding how to do things a little different, becoming more familiar with new technology that's going to make me better and ultimately make me more money, that's going to provide for my family, to make me better connected and better strategic partner with my clients. Anything and everything I can do along those lines is what we need to do. So I encourage you, if you haven't done it, to reach out and get your education put together through PPAI. I said earlier that I believe that this was a wake-up call. One of the things that I think that we need to look at strongly is two things. We need to be physically fit and we need to be fiscally fit. All too many times I've seen folks that I've worked with that do not have the proper savings in the bank, money in the bank. Right now is not the time to sit there and go, oh, you need to have money in the bank. Why don't you have money in the bank? But certainly if you don't and you haven't done it, now's the time, just like your marketing plan, how are you going to plan for your financial future moving forward? Because folks, something like this, hopefully not this grave, it's going to happen again. Something's going to happen. It's cyclical. It always happens. And we could go down the list of things that have happened. but are you in physical and fiscal shape? Because at the end of the day, you don't do any good to your family, to your friends, to your loved ones, to your business and your business associates if you're not sound physically, mentally, spiritually. You're just not sound. So I encourage you to get on the horse and get yourself in really good shape. If you are, fantastic, and keep it up. If you're not, now's the time. I had a friend of mine a couple years back. Her name is Shauna Tremansky. And I saw her at Expo one year, and I said, Shauna, it was about 3 years ago. I said, Shauna, you look amazing. I said, you look great. What happened? She said 3 words to me. She goes, it was time. I said, what do you mean it was time? She goes, it was time for me to do something. And to me, I look at it, right now is a great time for everybody to get started, to get themselves in perfect shape. I mean, as best you can, and to get yourself motivated and moving forward, because again, when this pendulum swings back, you can be ready to go. About 3 years ago, I was tipping the scales at about 270 some pounds. And when Shauna told me that, I said, wow, you know what? It was time for me too. And I can tell you that I got really focused, very regimented, and I was able to drop almost 60 pounds in about 4 months. And I'll tell you, I feel fantastic. I've been able to keep it off. I work all the time. And guess what? When I wake up in the morning, I'm clear of mind. I'm ready to go. I'm sharp. I'm on top of it. So that when I pick up the phone and people say, hi, is Cliff there? I'm here. How you doing? Good. How are you? I'm fantastic. I feel great. And that mentally, people engage with that. People love that. So again, I encourage you, this wake-up call, to get yourself in really good shape and look at your finances and how do you get yourself in the best shape possible when this pendulum swings back so that you can move forward. And again, now is a great time for that. So in wrapping this up, I just wanted to say a few things. Number one, why wait? Why wait until the pendulum starts to swing back and then we're scrambling to get it done? You know, I remember when 9/11 happened, I worked for a major organization, and I used to push people all the time when they were busy. I would say, are you marketing? No, I'm not. I'm too busy. Why? You have to market even when you're busy. No, I'm too busy to market. Now you get people that aren't marketing because it's too slow. Bad idea. Doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money to do it. The bottom line is you have to do something to be engaged. You have to stay top of mind when that pendulum swings back. If you don't, it's going to be catch up, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be scrambling to get that business. But wouldn't it be nice when somebody turns around and says, all those people that are trying to get the business now from them, they're saying, nope, this individual was with me through thick and thin. So be top of mind when this pendulum swings back, because you don't want to be left out. You want to be healthy at all levels, making sure that you're sound. You want to be in great fiscal health moving forward. Create a plan for this. Get yourself in really good mental shape. As you progress through this, people are going to depend on you and need you to be in that state of mind. The other reality is, together as an organization at APPA, and any of you can feel free to reach out to me if you want at any time. We'll get through this together. We've been through other things before. We've been through the SARS virus, 9/11, and all this other stuff, because that's the way humans are. We stick together. We do things. We get things done. But by doing all these things and staying engaged and relevant with your customers, and by being present, you will keep your brand alive. You will come out on the other end of this in a very, very positive way. So the key points of this are to start now and to continue. Don't stop. Seth Godin says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that that's important. Recently, I heard a gentleman by the name of Jesse Itzler. If you get an opportunity to hear him speak or read his book, Living with the Seal, it is outstanding. And during his presentation, He said, there's two words that I live by. And I'm paraphrasing his conversation here, but he said, there's two words that I live by. And that is, remember tomorrow. And he says, what I mean by remember tomorrow is that the things that you do today are going to affect the outcome at some level tomorrow. So if your focus is what I'm doing today, how is that going to benefit me tomorrow? How is that going to benefit my customers tomorrow? Remember that. I have that posted on my wall. Remember tomorrow. Every morning I read that. I read that, and I read another quote that says, you did not wake up to be mediocre. So I'm always thinking, I want to be the very best that I can be. I want to remember that everything that I do today, every thought that I have, every action that I take, how is that going to benefit me down the road tomorrow? And then I do the same thing over and over and over. And make no mistakes, folks. I'm just like every one of you. Sometimes I do not want to throw my legs over the side of that bed and get up in the morning. But I have no choice. I have to do that. Learn how to leverage your community as best you can. And what I mean by that is anything and everything that suppliers are willing to do for you, take advantage of it. But on the other side of that, make sure that you give back. If suppliers are willing to bend over backwards to help you, make sure you support them when this pendulum swings back. And I'm not saying that you do this, but don't go to another supplier just because it's 8 cents cheaper. The people that supported you, the people that stayed in front of you, the people that helped you, the suppliers that were there that you leveraged during this downtime, and that you built everything up so that when the pendulum swings back, you are ready to go. Support them. They're going to appreciate that. Additionally, continue, as I said, to keep the momentum going. Think outside the box, innovatively and creatively. Think beyond promotional products only. What creative ways, the couple of things that I showed you here today, what creative ways can you take the product that we have and put it into some amazing campaigns that you don't see in a catalog and are not on some coded price sheet? Things that when people see them, they go, like that woman said, wow, this is a creative, engaging, personalized piece that you sent me. That was amazing. Just the response rate that she got from that. And guess what? That piece that I developed, you won't find it in the catalog. You won't find any of that in the catalog because it doesn't exist. And each of you have an amazing God-given gift of creativity. I encourage you to use it. Use it. You have got an amazing tool shed of stuff when you go to a trade show. All the products that are there, the packaging, the print, the creative ideas, the themes that can be put around all of that. You can create magic. Don't relegate yourself just to a product catalog. Let people see that you're more than just that. This is an opportunity for you to add additional arrows to your quiver as you move forward. In addition to all of this, really stop and think. I really want you to stop and think later today or tonight when you're having a glass of wine or something and just say, what are the different opportunities? And this is a positive. What are the different opportunities that are going to potentially surface from this? And do what if scenarios. What if this happens? What positive thing could come out of that? Is there an opportunity there for you to grow a new sector for your business and to be out ahead of it? But most of all, folks, it's really important, I want to say, to keep your brand alive. And we talked about that today as this pendulum swings back. But in order to do that, please remember to be present, be optimistic and stay focused, keep engaged with your customers, and most importantly, stay healthy. I look forward to seeing each of you. I don't know who's on the call, but I look forward to seeing each of you, or at least talking with you at one of the upcoming shows. That maybe the next one we'll see each other is at Expo. I'm sure I'll see Robert Williams there and Diana, but I hope to see all of you there. Let's just shake hands and have a drink or something. But again, be present, stay focused, stay engaged, and stay healthy. And my friends, you're going to come out the other end of this in a very, very positive way. And always remember tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ida. Ida?
Thank you, Cliff. That was a great presentation. It doesn't appear that we have any questions at the moment, so I'm happy to stay on the line with you for a couple of minutes just to see if anyone would like to submit a question so we can have a little bit of a Q&A. However, in the meantime, after the presentation, if questions do come to mind for Cliff, you are more than welcome to send them through to him at cliff@quicksellspeaks.com.au. I would also like to mention you can sign up to Cliff's blog on his website, which is www.quicksellspeaks.com, which both of those are on the screen. Oh, look, looks like we've got a question that's come through. Oh, here we go. So just Roland Percy has just mentioned excellent stuff. So thank you for that great feedback. Robert Williams, who is the APPA president, he loved the part about the professional development, and also great stuff, Cliff. So if you want to review those comments, you can. Would anyone else like to submit any questions?
I just would like to say that if anybody does have any questions there, like you said, they're more than happy to forward them to me, or if everybody would like to send them to you and you send them to me, I'm happy to answer everything and send them back to you that you can actually push out to folks. So if anybody has something that comes up down the road, they're more than happy to just draft them to you or to me, either one, and I'll make sure that either way I'll get them back to you so you can have a list of these FAQs.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so we've just had a comment from an anonymous attendee. Thought it was very good and loved those ideas, so thanks. Yep, so you will receive a recording of this presentation early next week. I'll also send a copy of the slideshow for you to refer to, and along with the recording as well. So that will be early next week. So if you've missed out on, so if you have registered but you were unable to attend, you still will get this recording, and it will also be in the Promo Insider. So you will be able to view both those documents there as well. Okay, well, it's quite late for you, Cliff, on your end, so I will let you go. But thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation. On behalf of Cliff and APPA, thank you for all the participants for joining us today. And I hope you all have a great afternoon and a great weekend.
You too. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.